Welcome to the party. I'm not here right now, but I want you to listen very carefully. These guys are very funny, so pay attention. Enough talk. It's showtime.
Hello and welcome to Bags of Action. My name is Steve and my co-host is Pete.
Hello.
This episode we are talking about the 1989 film Next of Kin, starring Patrick Swayze and a whole heap of big-name stars.
It is one heck of a cast.
There's a lot of famous people in this, and I'm sure we'll touch on all of them as we go through. So this time, this was one of my choices, actually.
It was.
I gave you a few, and we went with a sort of a classic one in the end. So, this film is one I watched probably when it came out, or shortly after on VHS video.
Yes, likewise. I think the old days of laminated video cards.
Yes.
And maybe someone a bit older than you that was old enough to get the film out. Actually, well, it's just probably at 15. Actually, it probably was fine. Having said that.
Yeah, I probably wasn't 15 when it came
yeah,
out.
you are a little bit younger than me. I forget that. But you're very tall. You know,
yes,
so you probably been, got away with it.
I haven't been carded very often. Even when I was younger, it wasn't a common thing. As for ID, so no. So this.
Well, I saw it then as well. VHS,
yeah.
Probably, because the time delay on films coming over here then was a lot longer, rather than like 12 minutes after it's in the cinema now. And I don't remember. I know I definitely saw it. I'm pretty sure I saw it with my brother. I think he's the one who got it out, not me. But having watched it again now, I didn't remember it at all.
Okay, all right. So quite fresh.
No, it was really as if I'd never seen it.
Okay. So. Exciting. So, to give you out there a little bit of a hint about the story, then we're going to obviously go into more detail and we're going to spoil this film to pieces. So if you haven't seen it, go away and watch it, or pause this and then come back.
Yes.
So this film is about Truman. Truman Gates, played by the lovely Patrick Swayze, as a Chicago cop who goes on the hunt for the murderer of his younger brother. And played by Bill Paxton, indeed. Gerald Gates.
Yes.
Now, having watched the film only last week again, and having read around it and done a bit of research, I'm still not sure why exactly they were stealing his brother's truck. Can you explain it to me?
No. Because it's the mob, or I say the mob, it's an Italian crime family that steals the truck. And then they buy the company they stole the truck from. But it's almost like, we've stolen your truck, we're going to steal all your stuff anyway, so you might as well let us buy you out. I think that's what it is. We're going to keep stealing all your stuff, so you're going to go broke. But if you sell up to us now, we'll stop doing it. I think.
Right, okay.
I think. Okay. But that's not clearly explained. I don't think.
So towards the start of the film, we find out that Truman Gates... Well, the first scene kind of sets it up. Truman Gates is a hillbilly. That's us not being racist or anything. That's how he defines himself. Or I think they call him that in a derogatory fashion.
I think the word hillbilly is probably used 40 or 50 times in this film.
True, yes. But they refer to themselves as having come from the mountain.
Men of the mountains, and that's right.
That's what they say. So the derogatory term used in the film is hillbilly, and the sort of normal one that they use is mountain. So the film starts with Truman investigating. He's called to a scene where a man's gone a bit crazy. He's got a gun, and these other cops want to rush in and kill him. And they're saying, "He's one of yours. You go in there and you sort him out. If you don't come out in 5 minutes, we're going to come in and shoot him." And then he goes in and has a man-to-man talk with this fella.
And it's Ted Levine, who's a great actor, quite a young Ted Levine, who looks like Tom Hardy. He looked.
You think so?
Yeah, I thought it. And maybe it's just his mannerisms and stuff. It just kind of, because it was such a young. I don't think I'd seen Ted Levine in anything when he was this young. It just really reminded me of Tom Hardy. But there we are.
Okay.
So he kind of, hillbilly to hillbilly is
yes.
the way I can say it, or mountain man to
heart
mountain.
to heart.
Has a heart to heart. They kind of know each other, and Truman kind of manages to walk him out of the situation and get him to give himself up. But one of the other cops starts kind of beating on him, and then Gates loses it. We see his fiery temper within the first few minutes of the film, really, that he's kind of called in to look after his people, as it were, but he doesn't want them to be mistreated.
No. So it sets up very quickly that even though he's a Chicago cop, he's still a bit of an outsider. They bring him to deal with his people, which makes sense to some degree, and I'm sure they still do that with other cops. If they went into Chinatown, they might get someone of Asian descent to come.
He's the only one with a ponytail.
He is, actually.
And he has a hat.
Yes, although to be fair, Liam Neeson's character also has a hat.
That's true. I mean, he's the only policeman with a ponytail, but many of his family have hats.
But he's the only one with the sort of cowboy hat.
That's true. That's true.
I'm not sure why, but anyway. Besides the point. Hats aside, we find out about his background. We find out what kind of character he is, what his temper's like, and that he's called in to deal with these kind of situations for his people. So it's a nice kind of intro scene. It sort of feeds well into. It gives you everything you need to know about him in about 5 minutes. That he's not afraid to shove around to the cops if they mistreat prisoners.
And I think then it leads straight into him and Bill Paxton's character. So he does a really nice job in the whole thing, in a film of trying to get the premise and everything set up in the first 10 minutes. I think they do a really good job of that here. It's quite thoughtfully written. So he meets his brother. His brother wants to go back to the mountains, but he can't afford it. Which I don't quite understand, but he couldn't afford to go back. And it sounds like we start to hear first this kind of tug of war over his character between Truman, Patrick Swayze, who wants him to stay in Chicago, I think, so he can kind of look after him, and then his other brother, Briar, who's played by Liam Neeson, who wants him to go home. Yes, and
Liam Neeson's the older brother, and I think we're not completely sure what the root of this disagreement is. It's just that they've both got, as you said, this tug of war over their younger brother, and I think Patrick Swayze's character is saying that there's no future for you if you stay out in the mountain. There's nothing to do. There's no career. There's nothing. There's no way you can do. You'll just be living with everybody else and doing the same old thing now, no money, no nothing. Whereas even though Bill Paxton's character, Joel Gates, kind of knows that, he's like, well, I know the people there. I feel safe. I trust them. Here, I'm nothing. I'm nobody, and I don't feel like I belong. So he'd rather go home and have less and feel like he belongs and stay in the city.
That's right. And then you meet for the first time. I think, is it Jessie? Truman's wife, played by Helen Hunt, and she is, they straight away, there's a bit of a class difference between them. She's playing a violin in a church, he's running late because of what's happened, so there's quite a nice little, you can see that he, not only has he moved away, he's also kind of, well, I wouldn't say married up, but maybe you could say that, but he's kind of changed his whole situation, and from what he had before.
Did you recognise Helen Hunt,
yes,
by the way?
Yeah.
Yeah, because first time I saw it, well, I think I've seen this film 3 or 4 times now, and the first time I had no idea who she was because I was far too young and hadn't seen her in much of anything, but the second time I came to it, I thought, she looks familiar, and so she's obviously gone on to be a very well-regarded actress and has done leading roles, but this is the first film I think I saw her in where she was just sort of a secondary character.
Yeah.
She didn't have a lot to do. She had a couple of small scenes that were important, more so to character than the plot. Compared
to other films around a similar time, I think you can tell she's a slightly better actress than other people in similar films.
I think so, yeah.
A little bit. She does give a bit of credibility to some of the scenes, and it's really well done because she doesn't get that much screen time, but when she does, you do get the sense that they're a happy couple, and that she kind of, although she's concerned about him, that she kind of respects where he's come from, even though she and he are both kind of outsiders to a certain extent.
Yeah, I think she appreciates everything he's gone through to get where he is. Yeah. So then this, of course, the Gates family come into conflict with the Isabella family.
That's right.
This is the Italian mob, essentially, run by John Isabella, who controls a lot of crime in Chicago. He's one of the powerful families, and his right-hand man is Joey Rossellini, played by Adam Baldwin.
Indeed. And seeing him so young was a bit weird as well.
Yeah. Although I think the weirdest one was Ben Stiller, but
that's true. Who looks 12?
Yeah. We'll come on to that. So we're introduced to their characters. We find out that Joey's quite a mean character. He's quite nasty, but he does his job well for John. He's trusted, and then the situation changes and everything becomes unsteady, I'd say, and his future doesn't look nearly as secure as it did before.
That's right, because Papa John brings in, I think, his son from his first marriage. They rattle through the relationships really quickly, but it's really well done because you get a sense of Truman and his brother, Truman and his wife, Papa John and Joey. And then straight away, you even though he's only been on screen for a couple of minutes, you do see the threat from his son coming in and kind of, well, hang on, he's kind of the golden boy, and now, well, his real son is here now, so does he really need you? And that is really evident straight away, I think, from the minute he walks in. Yeah,
it doesn't look good. The fact that, I think it's a later scene, but his office is suddenly no longer his office. Lawrence, Ben Stiller's moving in. So, well, you're never here, Joey. I can take it. There's a little office around there. You can take it when you do actually come here. It's almost like a storage closet. So suddenly he hasn't got his office. He's not the favourite son anymore because Papa John's got his actual blood son now, and he's thinking, well, what he's probably thinking he's going to take over the family, and now it's all change.
Yeah, so he definitely feels threatened. So he's kind of asked to bring Ben Stiller's character, Lawrence, under his wing, really, and kind of show him the ropes. But I guess grooming him up almost to take his place, which is why he feels so threatened. So he takes him out with him. Well, we see Bill Paxton's character then driving a lorry and saying that he doesn't like rap music, which is what he refers to rap music as.
Yeah.
Which is probably the most dated scene in the film, I think. But it's still quite funny. And then basically they think they're going to be pulled over by the police, but then they realise it's not the police, it's the mob. But where most people would just pull over and run off and leave what's on the lorry for the mob, Bill Paxton is a little bit more stubborn than that, and he basically just floors it and doesn't want to stop and drives off.
Right, there we go. I'm back. So I'm thinking my mic was picking up Liz laughing in the back.
Okay.
Yes, so he doesn't want to give up his truck.
No.
Although the weird thing is the truck is actually empty. So it's not the fact that he was given up a truck full of cigarettes. They've all gone into the machines. It's just the truck itself.
Yeah, of course. I forgot that. Then it makes even less sense.
Yeah. So the other guy says, just give it to him. And eventually they manage to run the truck off the road, even though he kind of fights back, which they're surprised at, the mob, Joey and Lawrence. And he crashes into something and they can't drive away.
Then his friend runs off into the hills. And it's left, basically Baldwin is, not Baldwin, I keep referring to everyone by their actors. I keep forgetting their names, so I'm going to probably refer to them by who they are as actors. It's easier. So Bill Paxton is dragged into the lorry by Baldwin and Ben Stiller, Lawrence, and they realise he's a hillbilly, take his knife off him because he's trying to fight back. They tell him that he's dumber than any other race. They don't put it quite that nicely.
Well, this is all Adam Baldwin's character. Remember, Ben Stiller's character's naive. He's young. He's saying, "Come on, Lawrence, I'll show you the ropes. This is how we do things. You want to learn the business. Your father wants." He's almost like he wants to shock Lawrence out of it, kind of say, "Oh, I don't like this side of the business. I'm the businessman. I don't want to be here. I want to be doing something." He even wants him to just completely leave and go away so that he can go back to how things were. So he makes him get in the back of the van, and then he starts to beat the crap out of Bill Paxton's character. Gerald Gates just starts wailing on him and calling him stupid and saying that he's a dumb hillbilly. Yeah,
and then this is where it kind of turns because Gerald spits in Joey's face, and the retaliation for that is being shot point blank in the face.
Yes. So I'm still not completely sure why. I think he kind of does it because there again, it's not really for the crime as such. It's more for the fact that he wants Lawrence to be shocked so much that he kind of turns around and says, I don't want to do this, and he'll go away.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of that, and I think the spitting in the face, he seems to be quite big on being respected, on being feared. So I think it's probably an element of retaliation, but coupled with, wanting to scare the life out of Lawrence so that he runs off with his tail between his legs.
Yes, but it doesn't go to plan because he doesn't scare him.
No.
Anyway, coming on to the age of this. So I was looking at this when the film was made, and we're saying, Ben Stiller looks really young, and so does Adam Baldwin. So I've gone back and worked out their ages, okay?
Yeah.
So, when this film was made, who do you think was the youngest out of Bill Paxton, Adam Baldwin, and Ben Stiller?
They all look similar.
Mm.
I'm going to put my neck out and say Bill Paxton.
Okay, so when the film was made, Adam Baldwin was 27.
Okay.
Ben Stiller was 24.
Gosh, okay, that would be...
It's I think it's one of his first roles, pretty much. I don't think it's his first... It may be his first serious role, but, I've been watching his father for years before that, but this is pretty early, remember. And then almost after that, he went almost exclusively comedy. I don't think I've ever seen him in a more serious role since this. I don't know why. Anyway, Bill Paxton, get this, was 34.
No.
Yeah.
How old is he now?
He is 59. So he's born in 1955, and this was made in 89. So,
gosh, okay.
There you go. See?
Well,
you see, he looks about 12.
Yeah. Gosh, okay, that shocked me. That's really shocked me.
Yeah.
I was thinking, gosh, he's aged between then and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I'm not surprised he was 34 then.
Yeah, he's 59 now. So he looks good in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., though.
Yeah, he's the really best thing in that show, I think. Or was.
Yeah, but then you go back and look at things like Aliens, and you think, oh, come on, and Apollo 13 and stuff like that, and Tombstone. These are my favourite films.
No, he's a great actor.
He's really good. Anyway, they got Navy SEALs. Sorry, I'm just looking at his IMDb page and going, man, there's so many films he was in. I'd forgotten how many.
Yeah, and Weird Science, of course.
Oh, God,
that's the first thing I saw him in.
I can't remember who it was. I was listening to an interview somewhere, and they were saying they get him to try and do some of the lines from that sometimes. And it's just one of his things he does when he's when he's having fun. So yes,
you're a funny guy.
Anyway, back on the film.
Indeed. Back
to Next of Kin. So it's all gone wrong. Gerald Gates, Bill Paxton's character, is dead. Patrick Swayze's out for blood. Although he's a cop first and a mountain man second.
Yes. And
that's where the conflict comes in this film.
Yes, it is. Definitely. Because, it's interesting actually, because he goes home for the funeral, and it's quite a nice line here, I think, where you get off the train and he says to Jessie, you wait there. The family don't take well to strangers.
Yes.
She goes, but I'm not a stranger, I'm your wife. I was talking about me. So it's really beautifully done. Because he's moved away, he is the outsider
yes.
at home, more so than anything else.
It's funny because, he's able to talk to that guy in the first scene, Ted Levine's character, and kind of compare stories and talk about how they used to hunt by this place and the families. And, he's you're a mountain. Yeah, I heard you was a mountain. But then he comes home and it's like, you're not. So he's not either. He's not really a person from Chicago. He's not really mountain.
No.
So my favourite bit of this scene, even though it's a sad scene, where he's just got off the train and he walks up. There's all his family gathered there. He's like, "Uncle, do it." Yeah. Grandpa, hello. And he's going through Uncle. Yeah. Snake. Yeah. Uncle. Wait. Snake. I'm just there going, wait, what? Snake? Because breeze over it and just kind of like.
It makes a lot more sense later.
I know, but this time around I'd remembered and I was waiting for that moment. I thought,
I was gutted because I thought by the same rationale, if Snake, we are spoiling it anyway. If Snake has snakes, that Rhino, one of the mob guys, should have had a bus full of rhinos. That would have been.
His was the strangest kind of name out of all of the Italians. You've got like Leo and Paulie and Joey, and you got Rhino, and it's like, well, he's not really a big guy. He was just a small.
See, well, the snake guy, looks a lot like Patrick Swayze, a lot like him, but his name is Michael Wise, so there's no. But he's also in Roadhouse. He
reminds me of Macho Man, a younger, thinner Macho Man with the beard and the thing.
He's in Roadhouse and Tombstone. It's almost like he's just followed everybody that he worked with around.
But just that kind of, hi, wait, what? So, of course, his brother, Briar, who's played by Liam Neeson.
Now, Liam Neeson hasn't changed. You said that to me the other day, but Liam Neeson really hasn't changed. He could play that part tomorrow.
Yes, he could.
If they did Next of Kin 2, obviously, sadly, without Patrick Swayze, but it was set literally minutes after this film ended, Liam Neeson would still look fine. Put the beard on, and he'd be away.
Baseball cap, and he'd go away.
Yeah.
If we get time at the end, there's some Liam Neeson things I want to talk about, but we'll see if we get onto that. So yes, he comes home, and there's this sort of there's a couple of slow scenes, but I guess it's in a modern film they would have cut them down really, really to only a couple of seconds or a couple of almost like montages. But here we get a few sort of slow scenes where you see how his family is set up. You see the rituals they go through when someone dies, and it's a bit different. Did you notice the kind of, I don't want to say blatant sexism, but quite the division of the sexes?
Yes.
Where the women cook and make the food, and the men sit around together in the other room. So there's quite, open segregation. And of course, Jessie goes in with the women, and she doesn't fit in. She's not really one of them. She drops some cutlery. She's a bit awkward, and they all look at her funny, but they accept her because she's there.
Yeah.
It was a bit weird. That also kind of dated it. You wouldn't really see that in a film these days.
No, I don't think so. But then again, unless it's kind of that community kind of being slightly traditional or old-fashioned or regressive or however you want to put it, I guess it fits with that. They're not from the city, so they're not, because she's very independent. She's teaching people the violin. She's definitely got her own life. But you'd imagine that if he'd stayed and married somebody in the mountain, that wouldn't have happened. But you get the first kind of interaction properly between Briar and Truman here, when kind of the brothers obviously just died, and they're kind of. I really like the fact they weren't just straight away full on angry with each other, because it felt like because they hadn't spoken for a long time, they didn't really get on anymore, that they were going to straight away have a massive row. But actually, the grief kind of bonded them, not much, but enough for them to talk. And so we found out that Briar basically did move to Chicago himself, but moved back. Because he wanted to own the land he lived on. Even though he's struggling, I think, financially and work-wise, he'd rather be there than going to Chicago and having to kind of answer to other people.
Yes, and this is kind of the place that Gerald was getting to, and Patrick didn't want him to go back and be like Briar and have almost nothing and live in a shitty, beat-up sort of caravan. And he's saying, but it's my own land. I can step outside and take a piss on it if I want to. It's my land, and no one's going to complain. And
it's quite good because you get both viewpoints. It doesn't feel like either of them is right. It's just two different viewpoints.
I guess he just wants a better life as he sees it for his younger brother. He got him. He's in the city and he's thinking, I made it, you can make it. Just because Briar couldn't hack it, you could do it.
Yeah, and you get the feeling that they both want the best for their brother. They've just got different views of what is best, which I really liked. Rather than I think it was good that it doesn't make you suddenly agree with one or the other. You just go, okay, they've got differences, and actually you feel for them both because their brothers died. The following piece from this thing, you get the feeling that the family wants action, they want revenge, whereas Truman wants to use the legal system. But there's quite a cringeable bit when he goes to see the kid.
Yes,
it's good. It's good. It's just that in fairness, He's a small child, but the acting by the boy is awful. And because he goes up, there's a kid with like a rat tail kind of ponytail thing, and he's
mullet. Come on, it's a mullet.
It's a mullet rat tail, and he's using it doing archery, and Truman goes over and says, he kind of asks him, "So here, you're a really good shot. Show us." He doesn't really want to. Jesse says, "Come on, show him." So he does it, and he fires a great shot. And then he says to the kid, "Is that you've got?" And the kid has a go and he goes, "Oh, you got some points. You got some points." He went, "No, I just killed the man who killed Uncle Gerald." But he turns and looks straight into the camera to say it. You feel another take maybe might have been in order there. He killed my Uncle Gerald, and just looks literally as if he's staring straight at the cameraman.
There's two things there. One, he's about 7.
Well, he's got. Okay. I'm sure he was paid.
2, okay, this is what you're nitpicking on. 2, okay, you're mocking the child actor.
Yes.
3, the fact that we've got better child actors now is actually a little worrying, because it suggests parents are more pushy now than they were then, for all sorts of reasons, probably because they want a bigger slice of the money of their own kids. So the fact that he isn't very good gives me some hope that back then parents weren't as bad as they are now, driving their kids to drink drugs and everything, so we end up with more, early childhood actors dying of drugs overdoses. So it fills me with a little bit of pride, the fact that he's a bit crap. I'm taking the positive from it. Okay. You're going, okay, can we have another take? Come on, take 42. And I really want to feel the pain. Come on, you're not trying. Right, what's wrong with you?
At the very least, can we just do one more where you don't look at the camera? That would be... Please.
Little Jimmy, I know you're tired.
Now, what I want to know, though, is your opinion of the archery, because we haven't shared this. Maybe I shouldn't share this, but you are... Do you still go into archery?
Yes.
Yeah. So you're our resident expert.
Yes.
So what did you think of the archery?
Shit.
Okay.
No, well, okay. It was a very, very basic, simple bow. It's not really a bow as such. It's the kind of bow and arrow you give for kids. You can't actually do much of anything.
But he was a kid.
Yeah. He's practicing. Yes. So, it's all good. He'll move up to other bows. Later on in the film, there's some proper bows.
So we'll hold that there.
Yeah, we'll put a pin in the archery.
Indeed. And my abuse of small children, as it were.
Yeah. Yes, you want their acting skills to be on the level of Helen Hunt.
I want to find out who that boy was and find out if I don't think he ever worked in that town again.
Oh, dear. No, I think that was it.
So the family kind of holding hands and praying, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. So very kind of...
Yes. Did you see the book?
Yeah.
The book. So, a very interesting thing is that when we were talking about they were a bit old-fashioned, Gerald's died, they have this massive book where they write in his name, the way that he died, and the date, and then they pass it to Briar and say, it's up to you now, and Truman wants no part of it, he doesn't want anything to do with it, and you're thinking, ooh, well, what's that? And this is when we find out what Briar's going to do. Yeah.
And I think, it headed back to Chicago. Truman wants to investigate, but they all think that it's going to be too slow. But it's interesting then, because the first thing I think that Truman says is the reason he wants to investigate isn't just because of justice, it's because he wants to get to the killer before Briar gets killed himself.
Yes. So Briar's basically an eye for an eye. It's their way. He's going to come to Chicago, find the man that killed his brother and kill him. Whereas Truman sort of saying, look, I'm a policeman. I do it my way. I do it this way. I do it the law. And he's saying, no, Briar, I'm going to do it my own way. And he comes to the city.
He does. And this is when, again, the bit that you talked about before with the office, this is when you start to see the first bit of tension between Lawrence and Joey. Because... yeah, he goes to go into his office. It's been given to Lawrence. Lawrence has installed CCTV, which is nice foreshadowing for later in the film. And so straight away, Lawrence seems quite happy, but Joey's kind of, well, hang on. This kid is pretty much taking over for me. But then Truman turns up there, which I was surprised that happened so quickly. He kind of, I'm the policeman. It's my brother you killed. or that was killed. I need to look for your employment records. And then he sends them on this wild goose chase. Gets them to trail him in his car. They go into the projects. They're running around this apartment block, and he's basically paid a kid to kind of take them all around the building, and then the wheels get lifted on the car, and Gates drives off laughing. And you see a slightly different side of him, I think. Almost, I don't know if it's intentional, it's because he's been home, but you see a slightly more rough around the edges, kind of playful side of him there.
Yeah, he's a bit naughty, and he's playing tricks on them because he knew they were following him, so he loses the tail pretty quickly. They think he's just a stupid, dumb hick cop, but he's actually a lot cleverer than they think he is. So Briar comes to town. He checks into this crappy motel. But my favourite character, well, one of my favourite characters is the man who runs the sort of.
And he's been in so many things, but I can't think of any off the top of my head. I'm going to look him up.
So the actor, I can tell you, the actor is called Michael J. Pollard.
Uh-huh.
He's been in Tango and Cash.
Which I've got a Tango and Cash fact for the end of this as well.
Ooh, okay. He was in Scrooged. He was in Bonnie and Clyde. He's been in things like, oh God, I'm just having a look now. He was in Blossom, apparently. Yeah, there you go. So he's done a lot of stuff, but he's a very unusual guy. He's got an interesting voice, and in some ways he reminds me of Teller from Penn and Teller.
Yes.
He's small build, curly hair. I like to imagine now, because Teller never speaks, that this is what his voice sounds like. Because Michael J. Pollard's got this slightly squeaky, slightly odd-sounding, very unique voice. He kind of talks a bit like that, a bit through his nose. I can't quite get it right, but it's really interesting. And he's always twitchy and a bit weird, and so he knows that Briar, sort of why Briar is there, and it's a crappy place that he's running, but he does the best that he can, and he seems quite a nice guy, really.
Yeah, he's kind of surprisingly so. I think that's quite good. So many other films that are similar to this, in that kind of flop house.
Yes.
The person that would be the biggest problem would be the person on the door. Because at some point they'll turn you in, or they'll take money, or they'll allow someone into your room at night. So many other films that's happened. It was
a callback to Useful as a Soldier when they check into that motel and the guy's going, oh, it's $20 for this, and another $10, and they're just ripping them off. Whereas Harold is the opposite. He's sort of saying, well, I'll do what I can, and I'll help you out, and he warns him and stuff, and takes a number and says if anything happens, call this number. And Harold does. He doesn't just take the money. So he's quite a nice guy.
Yeah. So he's got his place, his set up, and he goes off then to start investigating himself. Finds two Dobermans. Back in the day when Dobermans were in every action film.
It's true. Yeah.
Two Dobermans straight out. He sees Ben Stiller driving off, and then at the same time, it's got nice parallels that Truman goes to see Johnny Isabella at his bar, kind of catches people gambling, but they deny that they're gambling, and then goes into the kitchen. See, I'm assuming Papa John is where the pizzas come from, maybe. He goes into the kitchen and tells him that he's the brother of the Northside employee that got killed. And he said, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know that anyone was killed in a truck. I didn't mention a truck. So he says, retribution is coming. You need to, if you hand the killer in now, it ends here. So he's given them an out if they turn someone in, but because he's not going to do it anyway because of code of honor or what have you. But Baldwin's character is like another son to him, so he's not going to turn him in. But he's starting to feel the heat, I guess, and as things progress from two different directions, from the two brothers with two different ways of approaching things.
And actually, he was in the kitchen, so he was feeling the heat very well. But I like the fact that John Isabella's character, you might expect to be sat in the back with a big, muscly guy and he'd have piles of money, or he'd be just, sat there drinking and smoking a cigar. And in fact, you walk into the kitchen and he's just a guy in an apron making pasta sauce.
And he's of course from one of your favourite programmes.
Well done! Absolutely, this is the fantastic actor. The late, great actor, actually, Andreas Katsulas, who passed away a few years ago. But I just like the fact is that sort of, he's not what you would expect him to be. Despite being the head of this family, despite having obviously quite a large network and a lot of money, he's just in the kitchen making pasta sauce, making stuff, adding oregano and doing this and say, oh, taste it, what do you think? So he just comes across as quite... It's just not what I was expecting and not what I remembered.
No.
And what people might imagine him to be.
And he does feel like he's almost... What I really like is that the story, really, in some ways, the next of kin are the brothers, but it's also about two families.
Yes,
two different families and how they keep keep things in order, really.
Yeah. So then it all starts to kick off and it all goes run. Briar's on the trail. He goes after Joey. He comes in and shoots up their building and says, and basically tells them, I'm here to take care. I'm here after the guy killed my brother. If you put him forward, then this will all go away. If you don't, I'll be back again next time. And he's already shot the building.
He shoots the jukebox, shoots the water cooler, drenches Joey. Then the hooker that was with Joey's character, which is a very late 80s thing, she comes out of the room and has called the cops. But they declare war then. It's like, this is war now between us and you.
Yes, you just know that at that point it's not going to end peacefully, no matter what you try.
And then Truman turns up to investigate what's going on, and I really like the way that he knew, I think it was Briar anyway, but the fact he knew for certain as he saw one of his shells, because he's kind of adapted his shotgun shells, and he saw one of the shells and sort of looked at it and sort of smiled to himself. And they're not pressing any charges. He tells him he knows it was, when he say, you mess with my brother, you mess with me, settle this now, turn him over. So they've both, with different approaches, one violent, one sort of talking to them, they've both given them, so it's the third time now, it's like, if you turn this guy over, it ends. And that's now the third time they've heard that in about 10 minutes. Which is why, you feel that they're not going to turn him over, and in this sort of film you can feel things escalating, and it's quite frustrating as a viewer to hear everyone kind of give them the opportunity for everything to kind of finish peacefully, but that's not going to be the case.
Yeah, and then we get to a great scene where basically Truman tracks down his brother and tells him, you've got to stop it here. I'll take care of it. I'm going to take care of the murderer. And he goes, I've been here 10 minutes and I've worked out who it was. And Truman says, yeah, I know who it is. It was Joey Rossellini. He's like, well, if you know who it is, why don't you arrest him? He's like, I can't. I haven't got any proof, but I'll get it. But you need to back off. You need to give me some space. But of course he won't. And then we get into it.
We do. Well, there's a scene before this, actually, because the mob guys go to the flop house and see Briar and take him a pizza.
Yes.
And it's about an hour in by now, and it's been relatively slow, I think, by modern standards, until this. He throws a mob guy out the window, hangs on the ledge, and then it's a trap, the guy falls, and then Briar escapes by jumping onto a train. So he jumps out the window onto a train, goes along, and then jumps onto another train going the other way, so he loses the tail, and they chase him by a car, and they can't find him, basically. So then that's when Truman turns up, finds Briar in a bar, and they have an almighty fight.
It's a proper fist fight, with proper sound effects.
Yeah.
And the owner's about to call the police, where someone at the bar just kind of grabs his hand and puts it down. It's just like,
it's such a nice touch. And then you get a great line from Briar, which is, "You ain't family. You're just a cop who came from the hills."
I think it's what he says. He says, "You talk mountain, but you ain't mountain." That's what he says. I've written down that line. You talk mountain, but you ain't mountain.
Apart from the child actor, which I'm going to stop mentioning before we fall out, there's one thing that I've noticed for this film, which was also quite cringeworthy and made me realise how old it is. It's the on-the-nose soft rock lyrics that mirror the action. Did you notice
Power
that?
ballad. Yes.
So Briar is taken to jail, and it might as well be, Briar is in jail. Oh, what a shame. But
Truman is upset, but he's got to teach his brother a lesson.
Singing like, brothers, split apart. It's really, and it happens all throughout the film. Every time you see the Gates family on the mountain, it's like, family must stay together and the women must help. It's laid on with an audio trowel.
The song at that point is brother to brother.
That's it. And it's like, we know they're brothers. Please stop. I don't like exposition at the best of times, but I certainly don't like sung exposition.
It's brilliant. I want someone to do a musical of Next of Kin. I want them to do it, and that's how you could get the proper power ballads all the way through.
But there are. That is. I thought, that's a bit weird, and then later go, oh, okay, this is going to happen a lot more. That's become, and it's quite. It's relatively not a serious film. That isn't, but it's quite. It's not a light film. It's not a particularly light film overall. So
it's quite gritty.
Yeah.
I would say.
So it was a little bit unexpected. What I put here on the nose soft rock.
I'd put power ballad brother to brother.
Nice.
So yes,
we should play out with that. We should play out with that at the end.
Okay, see what I can do. So yes, at this point they sort of agree to disagree. He says, "If I let you out of the tank," Truman says to his brother, "If I let you out of the tank, will you agree to help me? We'll do it my way." And he says, "Oh, okay." So they investigate together, doing it the right way. Mm-hmm. And
they go to the club looking for the witness. Who's a friend of Gerald that was with him. Is the only witness, but the mob haven't been able to find him. So they go into a club and start asking for him.
Yes, David Jenkins. He was the other driver in the truck who ran away. He's saying to Gerald, he said at the time, "Just run and leave the van," but he wouldn't. So he's the witness. He saw the people go into the back of the van. He can identify them, but he's too scared, and so he's gone to his community and he's hiding out there. Yeah. But the two brothers come in and just want to speak to him.
Yeah, and it's good. It kind of quite a lot happens around this time. So we've just found out that Truman's wife is pregnant,
yes.
Which filled me with dread at the time. But thankfully, again, spoilers, it's not. I thought, oh no, please don't let that be part of where this is heading in terms of something happening to her or the baby, because that.
Yeah.
If it had been like, there were plenty of films at the time where that sort of thing did happen. You know, the pregnant wife or the mother would get shot in the first 10 minutes, and the rest would be like a revenge film. And I'm glad this isn't. Although it's a revenge film, it wasn't quite that gratuitous.
Women in refrigerators.
Yeah, exactly.
To motivate her.
Exactly. So, and it's kind of. It felt a bit quick, but this is kind of where Briar and Truman kind of make up, isn't it? It's where they start talking about old times, and we used to fight over women till 3 a.m, and then when Truman tells him he's going to be a father, Briar kind of smiles and says he's going to be a good father and stuff. It's really weird because the film is, by modern standards, quite slow, but their resolution is really quick. They didn't get on, they meet up, and maybe it's just that thing, I guess, with families where there's an issue, so you don't speak for ages. But once you're in the same place together, you know, blood is thicker than water. And I guess here they're united in they both want the same.
The quest to find Gerald's killer, yeah. So I guess they sort of, you're right, it does go a bit quickly, but they must sort of agree to just let it rest.
At the same time as this, the mob have gone and found where Briar's been staying, and they've ripped up the floorboards and taken his guns, haven't they?
Yeah, taken his shotgun, his rather unique shotgun, as we said before. He's got special bullets and stuff. And then it all kind of goes really quite dark at this point.
Yeah, quite quickly. Because Briar moves in with them, doesn't he? Moves in with Truman.
Well, he stays for the night. They sort of stay the night after they've found David, and he's pointed and identified.
That's right.
Both Joey and Lawrence haven't been in the back of the van, so they know those two are in there. And he's saying, "Look, in the morning we'll go and get them. We'll go and end this." Briar stays over the night. When Briar wakes up in the morning, he's slept in. He comes downstairs, and Truman's gone, and he thinks he's gone. Without him, he's going to go and sort it out without him.
And then he says to Jessie, this wasn't supposed to happen. We're supposed to go and look for the guy together. And she's like, well, hang on, that's not what he's told me. And she's upset because I think they obviously are very close. And as soon as his family has become involved again, there's also a nice. I don't know if it's then. There's a nice moment when Briar thanks Jessie for looking after the younger brother. I may have been earlier than that, but maybe it was back at the funeral. But they kind of have bonded. But now she's kind of. And there's a great culture clash, really. She's there teaching these little posh kids the violin. And he's come downstairs in his cap and his beard, talking about killing people. She's like, don't come into my house and bring violence and threaten this and that and the other.
you're a guest here and your family, but don't be doing that in my house. So she's quite tough on him. She's not giving him a free ride at all, despite being his brother.
And again, probably quite different from the women in their community in that relationship. She's an equal. She's standing up for herself, and which is good to see.
Yeah. As I say, it's quite a culture clash. So we got to see her as the fish out of water, and now we get to see Briar as kind of fish out in the city, and why he doesn't belong there.
And where Truman has been while this is happening is he's off meeting Lawrence and putting pressure on him. I think hoping that he can kind of we know you're in the back of the truck, but I don't think you did it. So if you just say who it was, this will end for you. Again, almost in parallel with Joey. Joey's thought, this guy's weak, I'm going to get rid of him. And I think Truman's the same. This guy's the weak point. If I can put pressure on him, then we're going to, he'll sell Joey down the river.
But it doesn't work.
No.
And then it gets really dark because Joey doesn't like Lawrence, and he never has, and he feels threatened by him. And he sees this as a 2-for-1 opportunity.
He does. So so Lawrence tells Joey that Truman's been to see him and stuff. So I guess he's looking at, okay, they know we were both in the truck, but also at some point you are going to give me up. I think he knows that's coming, and also, again, he doesn't like him. So this is a horrible, horrible scene where the violin lesson ends, and you just, again, as soon as Jesse walks out the front door, you know something's going to happen. And again, I was like, oh, okay. Thankfully, it wasn't as bad as what was in my head.
Yeah.
But take it from there. So Joey turns up.
And he says, hey, Jessie. She turns around and throws something in her face. And she's stumbling around. She can't see. And then she's ringing Truman and saying, there's someone at the house. And I got something in the face. And he's crapping himself, jumps in the car, drives across home and finds her in the shower. And thankfully, it was only paint.
Yeah,
and it was only meant to scare her and to distract Truman and to make sure that he wasn't paying attention. Because at the same time, they then go after Briar Briar doesn't go after him. Briar thinks Truman's gone off by himself and has gone after them. And he comes to his room. Harold says, well, they're gone. They took all your guns, so I'm sorry I couldn't stop them. So he goes back to the bar.
And buys the guy's gun for $100, reluctantly.
Well, first he beats him up and then says, you must have a gun. And he's like, no, I haven't. And then he tweaks his nose or something or punches him until he finds the gun, gives him the money and says, I'm buying it, and decides to go after Joey Rossellini. And this is where we've kind of skipped a scene, but we find out that Lawrence is dead.
We didn't know what was going to happen before. I think the scene that we skipped is when they're going off after Briar, from what we can gather, but they've taken the gun with them.
Yes.
So we go, don't forget to bring his gun with us. And you think, okay, what are they going to do? They're going to kill him with his own gun. This is some sort of symbolic thing, but it's something even darker than that.
Yes, so Joey as he said, we said Lawrence is going to give him up. He doesn't like him. He's threatening his position. And so he shoots Lawrence and kills him with Briar's gun, and then tortures him and sets him on fire.
No, the other way around. I think he tortures him,
and then shoots him in the head.
At the end. Yeah.
Yes, and then of course he takes the gun to Papa John and says, "Oh, look, they're monsters. Look, this is what they've done. And look, here's the gun that we found. Oh, yes, they're terrible. I'm so sad. I'm so sorry."
And I think at this point, Truman thinks it's Briar as well.
No, I don't think he does. No, I don't think he'd think Briar would actually torture someone.
No.
He might shoot them up. I don't think his brother would.
But I don't think we know that yet. I think kind of he goes, oh no, I know what's happened, and he kind of runs off, and you're like, oh, okay, does he think that? I guess it gives you that kind of element of doubt.
Yeah. And that's when he races home, and finds out that his wife is okay. She just had paint thrown in her eyes, and she's actually fine. She hasn't lost the baby, as he thought happens sometimes in films.
She hasn't been killed, which as soon as she went out of their house, having not remembered it particularly well, I thought she was going to be shot.
Yes. So it all comes to a head now, because Briar's got a gun. He knows who the person's responsible. He knows where they are. And so he goes after Joey. and goes after him in the warehouse again. Except this time
they're ready for him,
waiting.
and they use this. He goes, we can see him on CCTV. Lawrence did one thing right, kind of thing. They put a cassette, which is again reminds us how old the film is. They put a cassette on to sound like a hooker's in the building, but it's chatting, but it's actually a tape. And then they're ready for him, and they all pretty much start shooting at him. He takes quite a few of them down, but ultimately he's shot, and sadly he dies.
Yeah, Briar dies, but Truman manages to get there just in time to see his brother die in his arms.
Yeah, which is a poignant moment, really.
Yes. And then it really kicks off at that point.
Yeah,
because
he goes up a number of gears.
Yes. So Truman, they all know who it is. The guy's saying, "Oh, the law's the law. We've got to do this." And Truman's like, "No," gives him his badge.
Yeah. So I know it was a setup. And it's like, well, yeah, everyone knows it was a setup, but there's no proof. Badge back in his hand. Crank up the hillbilly music, and off we go.
And I've written at this point, "Mountain Justice."
Was that the name of the song?
I think so. Or as I like to put at this point, Vala Mogulis, all men must die.
Nice. There's a great bit here, because Harold, the guy from the motel, he rings...
Hi, this is Harold. Briar gave me this number and said something happened to him, and it's cousin somebody or other.
Who just
Gates.
goes, "Yep, we know what to do." And you think, oh...
Thanks, friend.
And then suddenly everyone in the Gates family is packing everything up. Weapons are being grabbed from everywhere. A song comes on about family sticking together.
Yep, the women make the sandwiches and thermoses of drinks.
It's good, killing is a hungry
makes you hungry and thirsty.
Exactly.
So women stay home and make the food.
I can't kill mobsters on an empty stomach. I don't know about you.
No, I need a packed lunch.
Exactly.
I need a drink, a cooler full of beer, maybe. Yes, and so the clan, the Gates clan gathers.
They do, and then it's the funeral then, and I think some brilliant overacting by Adam Baldwin, intentionally so, I think, because it's the funeral. Oh, Lawrence is dead. This kind of, which I don't think anyone would ever do at a funeral, especially not with someone who's known for about a week.
No.
But then straight afterwards, he's at the restaurant afterwards eating, and he's bragging, isn't he, to his... he's basically...
Everyone kind of knows who it is, and Papa John's consigliere says... He wires up one of the other guys and says, "Joey likes to brag," and he puts this wire on Paulie. And kind of says,
he said, "I was torturing him, and then he just started begging, and I was sick of it, so I just shot him." So
they're all laughing and think it's funny, and it's like, okay, Joey, you're already in even more shit than you realise. Never mind the Gates family. Once Papa John finds out about this, you're in trouble.
Yeah, and Truman turns up, throws Leo out through the window. He's kind of the weak link, I think, of all of those guys. He's the guy who locked his car keys out of his car earlier. He's like the Keystone Cop equivalent, I think, of the mob world.
Poor guy. He's just this little guy, weedy guy, and he's like, he's calling you out. He says, meet him at the graveyard.
And his grave, he's written on the windscreen of his car, isn't he?
Yes.
You forgot one.
Or you missed one brother or something like that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so... It's the big face-off in a creepy graveyard for some reason. Why? Anyway, lots of open space. Truman's there. He's ready.
It's very hard target, this bit.
Yeah, it is. So Joey turns up with about 3 cars full of guys with loads of guns. They spread out and try to pin down Truman because he's there by himself. But, of course, he's not using guns. He's a mountain man now.
Yes, he's Hawkeye.
He is, basically. They start shooting things, and they spot him and blow a whole bunch of...
This whole sequence made me think, I wish that in one of the Marvel films there was a proper scene with Hawkeye actually letting rip with... I guess it won't happen because it's a family-friendly film, but maybe just like hit them in the arm or the leg, but somewhere we can kind of show off like this.
Because they're all shooting up with machine guns and blowing away the gravestones into pieces. Yeah. And then they stop, and then suddenly, and an arrow goes through someone's chest. Yeah. He's dead. Yeah. Into somebody else, and he's dead.
And at this point, I was thinking, so is Truman going to kill people or is he purely going to get them into the open for his family so that he's kind of done right by both worlds? He's been just because he's kind of solved the murder, but he hasn't actually killed. He's let the rest of his family do that, and I think he does kill.
Yeah, he does, but he doesn't know that his family's there. He doesn't know that they've turned up, and he kind of gets shot. Actually, gets caught.
That's right.
But, and then he drops his bow and has to run off.
Yeah, he's got machine guns. Machine guns versus a bow is not very fair.
No, and he gets winged, and then just as he's got to his second bow, someone else comes in the corner, and he throws an axe.
Yes. And there's the calls, aren't there? There's like a ho-ho, and that freaks out Joe. He's like, what's that noise? A ho-ho. And he's like, ho-ho. There's all these,
that's suddenly gone from a quiet graveyard full of the occasional owl to 27 owls, a mongoose, a ferret, 2 deer, and a walrus. And you're like, wait, what?
You said a mongoose. I thought you said umbongos. Like, they started singing umbongo, they drink it in the Congo. That would freak you out.
Well, a mongoose would still freak you out.
That's true, too. That is true, too.
So he instantly, Truman knows the clan.
And I love the fact the clan brought Harold with them. He's like an adopted member of the family. So they brought, why? I don't know why, really. It's like, come on, guy from the Flop House. You should come and see them get killed.
I think it's because he's a nice guy. He rides in the converted school bus, Snake's converted school bus, just to be clear, that's full of snakes.
It is, and they managed to take one of the... It might even be Rhino.
It's Rhino. Poor Rhino. He chases one of them.
And this is the point where I thought, do you know what? If this film was made today, it would be called Hillbillies versus Mobsters. Because it wouldn't be anywhere near as subtle.
Nope. So they have dogs that chase Rhino.
And bear traps.
Yes.
Catch them in.
Yes. So Rhino runs away from the dogs into the safety of the school bus. Phew! Then they lock him in, he turns around, and he's ankle deep in snakes.
Many years before Snakes on the Plane.
Oh, yeah, it's just Snakes on a Bus.
And this is the point where they all kind of they look at each other knowingly and nod at Truman. He nods them, and it's quite a nice moment. It's like, he's lost both his brothers, but he has regained his family. Or regained
brother to brother.
You'll be reunited in heaven.
Gathering the clan, gonna whoop them.
Oh, there we are.
Quite musical episodes from us this time.
It is.
Yeah. I don't know why.
I don't know either.
Yes,
and then
it all kicks off.
What I really like here as well, it's the end fight, it's the final thing, whereas usually, whoever the two people are, it's quite an even match. The hero's on top, then the villain's on top, and then the last minute the hero's back on top. You can almost work out beat for beat. But the great thing with this is, it's a tough man versus a coward. Yes. So basically, he just kicks the crap out of him. And he's petrified because he's got no weapon, he's got no people to hide behind. And I really like that. I really like the fact that I think, again, now, that would be strung out to probably a 5-minute fight sequence between the two of them. But it's actually... one of them's a lot more resourceful than the other, and the other one is literally a coward.
And Truman gets to play with not only his bows. So I said I'll come back to the archery.
Yes. Oh, of course. Sorry. Here we are.
No, it's fine. So he got to play with bows. So at this point, he got to use a compound bow, for those who are paying attention, which is one with one string and sort of pulley system. And then when he gets winged, he then runs and gets a crossbow. So it's not just any old bow. It's a crossbow that he puts through some.
He's got a knife that he throws at people as well.
Takes out of his boot. Yep, and throws an axe.
Yes.
So he's kind of done the whole gamut. Apart from a spear, I think he's kind of covered most things.
And it's this is you can start feeling where the ending's going, but it's a really good ending because. Papa Johnny Isabella has turned up and he's telling Truman to let him go. And he's got one of the young relatives with a different rat's tail, not my little friend, but a slightly older guy. And he's like, going to shoot him. It's time to end it. And then, so I'm forgetting to put this one as well. For those fashion fans out there who were listening earlier about Patrick Swayze's ponytail, when he goes to the cemetery, his hair is fully like Tarzan. It's down.
Loose. It's down. Yeah. Angry. It's proper mountain man again. Yeah.
Exactly. And then step away from him, move away, Joey, and Joey moves away, assuming that Johnny is going to shoot Truman. But oh no. Papa John shoots Joey. This is for killing my son.
Yes, he's heard the tape. He knows that Joey was bragging that he killed Lawrence, and he can't stand it, and he kills him.
And then he gives Truman back his younger brother's knife. Which made me go, that's nice of him, but he did know all along, naughty man. And then,
of course he knew.
I know. But, and then he goes, I take it this is over between our families now, and Truman sort of says yes. And then you have the fastest ending to a film, I think, in cinema history.
Really?
Well, I think so, because at that point, it's like, there's family, there's all those things, what happened next, blah, blah. He goes back to the... Jessie turns up at the police station, sees Truman, and I don't think does she know that she doesn't know that Briar's dead, does she, at that point? She's like, I think she says, where is he? And he's like, he's dead. And then she hugs him, and he goes, oh, well, you and the baby are my family now. And then it just says the end. It's like a 20-second scene. It's like... I was like, for a film that's been relatively slow... It's like, oh, okay, hang on, is it going to be... And, these days, maybe there'd be an after-credits scene, who knows, but it just felt ridiculously abrupt and kind of hanging. And maybe that's just a thing of the time. I remember when we reviewed Stone Cold, that was similar, apart from you had the tracking shot of the boss walking towards the camera through the whole of the credits, which was really weird. But it just seems that film's just going to go, oh, there's no more story to tell, you might as well go home.
And...
it was just... I thought it was very, very sudden.
Roll credit.
It's like, well, you're my family now, don't worry about it. Whereas I didn't want him to think they were his only family. His brothers have died, but look at all those people who were just around him. So I don't know whether it should have jumped forwards then with the baby up at the mountains. Maybe that's a bit too twee, but I don't know. It just felt, I don't know, maybe you didn't think that, but to me, it felt really sudden.
It did seem quite quickly, end quite quickly, but I'm not really sure what else they could have done. As you said, going back to the mountain, well, he's not really a mountain man anymore. He is for yours for this, and he got mountain justice and all the rest of it. I think, well, he's not a cop anymore, so what's he going to do, open up a nice little knick-knack shop or a bookshop? So, you know what I mean? It's just sort of...
A violin and detective school.
Yeah. No. So, it just kind of ends, and you go, oh, okay, goodbye, and that's kind of it. So there's a couple of things I wanted to mention that I picked out. All of them have really big trench coats, like massive trench coats, all of the Italian people in the family. Everybody smoked in the film. I noticed it a lot more.
Yeah.
Now, it's because... The only reason I noticed it is that now smoking in films is pretty rare.
Yeah.
But almost everybody in the film...
Or it's a plot point.
Yes. Yes. Did you notice that?
Yeah, the same. And it's like, it did, it was very noticeable.
Patrick Swayze got his shirt off, I think it was 3 times. Maybe it was in his contract.
Well, it made me sad. Because it's obviously sad because Patrick Swayze, died 5 years ago, was only 57, but I've never quite understood why his career was so strong for such a short amount of time, and then he was in basically rubbish. Because, he did Dirty Dancing first, as his breakout from North and South. Did Dirty Dancing, which was a big film. Steel Dawn, Tiger Warsaw, I've seen both of those. He did Roadhouse. Now, do you know what film he turned down to do Roadhouse?
No.
Tango and Cash. He was originally cast before, and Kurt Russell replaced him because he wanted to do Roadhouse.
That makes sense. That makes sense, yes.
Because I guess he was in his ascendancy at that point. So he did Roadhouse, which we have to do for another episode. Definitely at some point. And then he did this, he did Ghost. I hate
that was the one that I think rocketed him.
Yeah,
into...
and then people I think went back and watched Dirty Dancing again. So at that point he's big. That's 1990. It's mad. I think that Point Break was only a year later than Ghost. I mean, I can't stand Ghost, but it was a huge film. And then he did Point Break. But then after that, the films got smaller and smaller. And by 1998, so only 9 years after this and only 7 years after Point Break, I saw him in one of the worst films I've ever seen, which is called Black Dog, which is him, Meatloaf, and Randy Travis, I think.
Randy Travis, well done.
I think it's Randy Travis.
It is, well done.
Yeah, and it's got a 5.2 on IMDb. I'm assuming the 5 at the start was a mistake. The 0.2 would be enough. It's an atrocious film. Although it's directed by Kevin Hooks, who did Passenger 57. But I remember watching that and thinking, what has happened to this guy's career? really, rather than Travolta, I wish, particularly when he's died so young, I really wish that it was Swayze that had a Tarantino kind of rebirth. Yeah. Because I just think he's a great leading man.
He was. He was very, very unique. He had great presence. And, you know, we've talked through what Next of Kin now. And okay, it's not the greatest film ever. He doesn't have that many brilliant lines, but he plays it well, and it's believable. It is
believable. I was going to say exactly the same thing. I mean, there's an element of similarity between his characters. The kind of hot-headed guy with... But even his fighting style is quite unique, because the way he fights in this at the end is very similar to the fight he has in Dirty Dancing, and also all the fights in Roadhouse, where he's kind of... I can't explain it very well, but the way that he stands and everything, because I think he's a dancer originally, he's got that kind of stance about him.
Yeah.
But I think, if the likes, he could have been the Tom Cruise for me.
In this film, he was believable in that character. I believe that he cared about Helen Hunt's character, Jessie, as his wife. It wasn't one of these things where you think, oh, okay, I'm not buying it. I believe that, although they didn't look like brothers, that Liam Neeson, Briar and Bill Paxton were his brothers, and he genuinely cared about them. So he did really well within the role and what he had. And that was just one of his strengths, I think. He was just a brilliant guy. He could convince you.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until right before he died that he almost got back to where he was in terms of popularity with things like The Beast, which was that TV series that it seemed to come out of nowhere. I'm not quite sure why, when he was doing voiceovers and the odd bit of TV
and lots
here.
of like Christmas films and...
Yeah, and then suddenly he got that. I mean, now they had the Dirty Dancing, the second one, remember? So maybe that's where it started to go back up again. That was in 2004. So I don't know, but suddenly it just went from... He started to be in ascendance again. Of course, then he got really ill, and he died.
Yeah, because I remember reading an article about, this TV show is probably going to get him back. This is, people are really impressed with his performance. It's only 13 episodes. Yeah, it's sad. I might have to watch The Beast. It's got an 8 rating on here. I never saw it, and it's a 13-episode thing. It should be relatively straightforward to watch. I'd like to see it, I think.
Yeah, I've seen the first couple, and then, of course, I knew what had happened to him, so it was quite difficult to watch. But I think I could go and watch it all now. And it's good. It's very dark.
Gosh, it was
a bit of The Shield.
It was cancelled in June 2009 because of low ratings, and he died in September.
Yes. You could see that he wasn't well, even when in the first couple you can see it. But yeah, a tragic loss and a great guy. Yeah.
We haven't. This is one of the few times we haven't really talked about the director or the writer or anything. So, John Irving was the director. Do you know what other films he's done?
No, go on, tell me.
Raw Deal.
Oh, we've got to do that one day.
That's a good one.
Got to.
I remember watching that with my nan.
Your nan?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a scene where a table leg goes through, is it Bill Duke's chest? I can't remember. She was quite shocked. He also directed the Robin Hood, the Patrick Bergin Robin Hood that came out around the same time as Prince of Thieves, the more serious one. And Hamburger Hill as well.
Oh, yes, I remember that, yeah.
But he hasn't done a lot. I'm trying to find he's dead, but he hasn't done a lot recently. Okay.
So what about the writer? The writer of this film
is Michael Jennings, who wrote this, and before this a TV movie, and nothing else ever.
According to IMDb, he has 2 writing credits, and this was Next of Kin was the most recent one.
Yes. So,
not to say about the writer.
Next of Kin 2, Electric Boogaloo must be coming soon.
Don't. Well,
Briar's Ghosts.
Oh, God. I don't know. Adam Baldwin's ghost fights Briar's ghost for control of Jesse's baby grown up.
Enough with the yakety yak. What is your score?
So, are we ready to give this film a score?
I think so.
I'll let you go first and see what you think of it.
I think I'm going to give it a solid 3 bags.
Okay.
I did waver giving it a 2 because I remember at the time, and I was a teenager at the time, I wasn't as keen on it because I thought it was really slow. Now, I enjoyed the characterization and stuff, I think a lot more than I probably did then, but it still felt a little bit light and like it needed a little bit more going on, but there's certainly it's a lot better than a lot of films being made at the moment. So yeah, I think a 3 is right in the middle of where I would want it to be, really.
Okay, fair enough. Back in the day when I watched it the first couple of times, it's interesting now, I did think it was slow at times, but back then I didn't notice it. For some reason, it never occurred to me, or we're much more conscious of how long films are now, I think. Definitely that's something that I've noticed. People are always saying, a film could lose 20 minutes, or that could lose 20 minutes. And I sit there thinking, most of the time I'm sitting there thinking, well, not really. If the film's 2.5 getting on for 3 hours, that sometimes bothers me. It doesn't have to be. But most of the time, anywhere between an hour and 2, I'm okay with that.
I think, as well, I saw Roadhouse first.
Right.
And I went, this guy's awesome. I'll watch this. And so I think they're very different films. And maybe I expected it to be a bit more like that. So at the time, I think I was a bit, okay, this is a bit more... People are talking in this film. I don't think when I was 16, I didn't really like films with talking in them. I do now, a lot. But at the time, it was like, punch him harder in the face. So I think that's why it probably seems slow to me. But sorry, carry on.
No, it's okay. So I think, like you, I'm going to give it a solid 3 bags out of 5. It's gone down a bit in my estimation from back in the day, but it was still good. There's still some great moments. It didn't go in some ways that we expected it to, in terms of putting the women in danger and then him having to go after them for revenge or something like that. So yeah, it was predictable at times, but there's some fun moments.
I think if you haven't seen it and you don't mind the fact that we've just massively spoiled it, I think it's a film people should see. To see Patrick Swayze kind of holding, in a leading role, holding the camera and being so good, but also to see all those other people early in their career and see. I think Liam Neeson has just obviously had that same quality throughout, but other people kind of finding their feet in early roles and stuff. I think it's interesting because if you look at a film from the late 80s of this type, most of them, it would be like, who's that again? Wings Hauer. Who's he? But you watch this and you go, okay, I know all these people, and actually they're all bigger, gone on to be much bigger stars, whereas quite often people from the late 80s will have gone big and then by now they're on their way back down again, whereas all these people have kind of gone on to kind of further recognition, really. That's been Bags of Action. That was Next of Kin. We'll be back soon.
You have been listening to Bags of Action. No bullshit. You'd better stick around for the next episode, because if you're lying, I'll be back.